All right, you are back. It is Jack Murphy Live Show. I am Jack Murphy. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Murphy Live, on YouTube, Jack Murphy Live, Jack Murphy Live everywhere, as a matter of fact. Today, I have a guest, somebody that I have been waiting to talk to for a long time. My man, Hotep Jesus. How you doing?
Oh, what's up, bro? Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to see you. Finishing a little bit of breakfast up here before we get going.
Yeah,
Dude, a
a
little
little
alkaline.
alkaline life.
Yeah. Yo, Hotep Jesus, you can find him on Twitter as Hotep Jesus, on YouTube, Hotep Jesus as well. And you can check out his app, coinbitsapp.com. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. Brian, you're with me, dude. It's been a
Yeah.
number of years, man. We followed each other for like 3-4 years probably now. I've seen you come up. You've seen what I've been doing, dude. It's been a long ride for you.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you get started in this game, man? That's what I want to know. You're hugely
Which game?
successful. Yeah, that's another good question.
I'm in a bunch of different games.
Yeah, I know. I want to get to that, man. You're an entrepreneur, you're a businessman, you're a PR expert, you're a social media king. You're leading a movement at the same time. I want to talk about all that stuff. So why don't we just talk about like how you first got involved with like Twitter, how you first got involved with like the media game, what were you thinking about? What were you doing? Did you have goals? Did you just like, were you just screwing around at first? How did this get started for you, man?
Um, well, we got to go back to 1996.
Let's do it.
You know, in 1996, we used to use this little JavaScript. Was it JavaScript back then? No, it was Visual Basic. Visual Basic. I forget what the back end coding was, but hack software to hack into AOL. So I used to spend a lot of time inside the AOL chat rooms, so on and so forth. I hear myself in the like an echo or something.
Okay. All right. How's that?
Testing 1 2. That's a lot better. Thank
All right,
you.
cool. Yep.
So yeah, so then after that we get into Black Planet. So Black Planet was basically a place where all the black people hung out online. And we basically just used it to pick up girls, right? I was
Right.
like 18, 19, 20 or something like that.
ASL.
Yeah, exactly. A sex location, right? So I actually created a page. I didn't realize it, but I was when I date, I do inbound marketing. I don't do outbound marketing. I was skillful at outbound marketing, but I attract women to me, right? So what we did was I started this page called Too Hot for BP, and it just featured like the chicks I thought were hot. And then in between, every few half a dozen of the chicks, I created a little advertising banner that would link back to my page or one of the homies' pages. So at the time, I was doing native advertising and inbound marketing. I ended up scoring like a really hot girlfriend at the time off of that page. Really, really good time. And then MySpace became a thing. So I was, Black Planet really hadn't updated much, and people started drifting over to MySpace. So I started my photography business. I had a record label at the time. I was a mortgage broker, and we were on MySpace, and we were operating like a crew. I remember one time this kid hit my phone. He's like, "Yo, did you guys hack MySpace?" I'm like, "Nah, why?" He was like, "All I see is you guys online."
Yeah.
But I hadn't hacked MySpace until later. Actually, really, what it was we were just really organized as a team. We I had one friend who would have connections to like hot models and photo shoots, and then I had the connection with the touch up girl who would do like cool graphics arts. But we were all organized, so if I changed my profile picture, the whole squad of 20 people changed the profile picture, and we'd flood the bulletin boards and so on and so forth. So we were just like saturating our environment in particular zip codes. And then I got adder software, and then the adder software, you started just adding people under certain zip codes. And that's when I really started taking over MySpace. But the bulk of it was always like business oriented. Like I always say, I wouldn't be on social media if it wasn't for business purposes. I don't really find it's entertaining, of course, but had it not been for business, I don't think I'd be online. It'd be less fun. So that was MySpace, and then Facebook came about, and I never liked Facebook. I tried it out, and it was just terrible to me all the time. And then my friend Dwayne Henry, who was press at Occupy Wall Street, head of PR at Occupy Wall Street, um, he basically said, try out this new thing called Twitter. And at first I'm like, nah, that shit sounds stupid.
Yeah,
But
that's
then
what I thought too, man. I was like, what? What? Why? My first
yeah.
tweet was, why am I here?
Yeah.
Little
This
did I
was
know.
I want to say it's like July 2009. So I started my account in 2009. And like, I gotta be honest, like from the very first tweet, I was kind of addicted.
Hmm.
It was different back then though. You know, you're basically just tweeting to yourself.
It's dangerous, man. When you're just tweeting to yourself, you say all kinds of things you wouldn't say when you've got tens of thousands or 100,000 people watching you.
Yeah. I was mostly I was mostly chronicling my life, like headed to the studio because I was a rapper at this time. I was touring artist. So I like headed to the studio, headed to do a show. Here's photos from our show. So I was just documenting my career, and then we got the blog Def Glam, and you know, over a course of like maybe 5 years, we built that up to a team of 7 writers. We were doing millions of hits a month. I was getting invited to all types of events, so on and so forth. And that landed me the gig with I covered 50 Cent's energy drink that was about to launch. So I ended up parlaying that into a regional marketing director gig with that company because they like my style. And then yeah, it's been on ever since.
Damn, dude. So the hustle is just in you. It's in you. You always been a hustler. Did you start businesses when you were a kid? Did you hustle lemonade on the street corner, have a paper route, shovel sidewalks, whatever?
I used to sell spritzes of cologne. You know, I'd have like my own favorite cologne I'd keep at home. But, you know, every year for Christmas, family members would give me cologne I hated, like Michael Jordan cologne or what was the other one? I can't remember. Ralph Lauren Polo,
CK1.
CK1. Yeah, CK1. So I'd bring them in, put them in, park them in my locker. And when I was in high school, I had 3 lockers. You're only supposed to have one. I had 3 lockers. I had one in one building, one in the main hallway where everybody traveled, and then one in the new building. So I wouldn't have to walk around with books or a book bag. So the main locker was like where I hustled out of. So I put pictures of Tyra Banks on the side. So when you open up the door, you see Tyra Banks right there from Victoria's Secret, and then you see the cologne. And then dudes would pay me, you know, like a couple of, 25 cents, throw me a quarter, throw me a dollar, whatever you got. I'll spray you down after gym class, that type thing. So I always had that hustling mentality. We had a DJ in school. I was the one that printed up his first business cards, created his first logo. I was what do you call it? Duplicating CDs. We had a CD burner.
Oh yeah, man. I remember one of my very first hustles was taking cassettes and dubbing them. When we got a dual cassette
Mm.
deck, that was big time, man. And I used to dub cassettes and I bring them to school and sell them. And then one day my dad was like, you can't be doing that, man. Like, what? He's like, let me tell you about copyright. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to move on to other stuff. But I too always had that. I had that mentality. I mean, I would just pick if I had a guy that could sell me bricks for $10, and I knew a guy that could buy bricks for $11. Boy, was I in the brick business, man. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. There was like from an early age, I can't remember a time where I didn't want to get out there and hustle and make money. I
Yeah.
was in like sixth grade with a paper route, and my boy, we would deliver newspapers, and then we would drive around, walk around the neighborhood looking for driveways that didn't have like little corners on them, and we would just fill in little corner concrete for people that would like cut the corner when they would drive in. Anything that we could do to make some money, anything, hustling. And my dad would tell me, he's like, why do you want to work? Why do you want to work? You're going to work the whole rest of your life. Why do you want to work now? And I was like, all right, Dad, give me some money. He's like, no. I'm like, okay, dude. I'm
Exactly.
out on the hustle, Dan. I'm out on the hustle. So that
Yeah.
spirit served you well. Where did that come from, man? Where did you get the energy, the idea, and the motivation to just be like constantly on the hustle? Because that's not something everybody has.
I don't know. I just it's just in me. I I don't know. I just always I used to have like Fight Club in my house senior year. All the guys would come over and we throw in the gloves and we'd box. You know, so I always had this desire to create a club of guys always had this desire to not just sit around and just play video games all the time. Let's do more with our time, you know. Even when I had a record label, I was 19. This was like 1999 when I started my record label, you know, and everybody around me wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be the record label owner, you know. So I don't know. It's just something that I think what it is if I don't hustle, I'll be miserable. Like I feel miserable when I'm not productive. I remember just being a kid playing Super Nintendo. An hour would go by Super Nintendo. I'm like, all right, I gotta stop playing. I gotta like read a book or something. I gotta like learn something. I gotta get on a computer and do something. Like I don't know. It's just the opposite of like to waste time. Just like really dug away at my conscience for some reason. I don't know. It's just in me.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your family like, man? You got brothers and sisters, your mom and dad hustlers, or were they working entrepreneurs, or like where did that come from? Because I don't even know where it came from for me. Because my dad was just like a corporate dude, but you know he would tell me, he's like, son, be a rock star. He's like, don't do what I'm doing. So maybe that's where it come from. My dad pushed me out there in that way. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm like, I would see him go to work wearing a suit every day, and I'm like, hey, that looks pretty cool, right? He took me to his office. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. He's like, don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And luckily I have it, man. I'm 45 now, man. And I think I've had like quote a real job for, you know, just a handful of that time that I've been out here.
Okay.
So what, like, you know, what were your influences like? Did somebody push you in that direction? Did you have like a role model to follow on that?
Nah, I didn't. I was, you know, I hate to say it now, but I wanted to be Bill Gates. When I was a kid, you know, he was the richest man alive at that time. So I was like, I want to be Bill Gates. I want to have my own software company. And my parents were workers. You know, my mom, she had a master's degree. She worked for a Fortune 500 company. She made 6 figures. My father was an electrical engineer. He made 6 figures. I remember when I turned 16, I applied for my worker's permit. My dad was like, why are you going to work? Same thing as your dad, right? I'm like, because I want my own money. So I got my first job at Burger King. And, you know, I just remember hearing my friends saying they had jobs. I'm like, damn, y'all got your own money? Like, I want my own money. I want to start earning some cash. So, yeah, I went and got my first job at Burger King. And that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, man, dude, one of my first jobs. I'm embarrassed to admit this now. I worked at Linens and Things. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Oh
story.
yeah.
It was like Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever.
Yeah.
And every day I would get out of school at noon to go work at Linens and Things. And I was like a stocker and a cashier. I learned more about curtains and sheets than I ever wanted to know in my whole entire life. But I'll tell you right now, my bed is lit right now because I know my sheets and my pillows from high school, man. But like it didn't matter. I just wanted my own money, just like you did, because I wanted freedom. Because I wanted. I guess power is the word, but it's like power for myself, like independent power. I wanted to be my own independent, sovereign man. Man. You strike me as a sovereign guy. You feel like a sovereign guy?
Yeah. Independence, power. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. No doubt. So let's talk a little bit about the Hotep, man. I think I have a good feeling about what it is. And I do remember coming across Hotep, you as Vibe High back in the day, and Uncle Hotep back in the day. I remember following you guys and thinking, holy crap, this is the crossover that I've been looking for. So many similar values, it felt like to me at the time. And I can still see it today. And then like politically, you know, we're kind of aligned as well. And I think it might speak to this, you know, independently motivated, self-built sort of attitude.
Yeah.
But what does Hotep mean to you? So that my guys who may not be familiar with you guys and your work and your vibe and this crew that you've built, right? You said you wanted to build a crew. You always wanted to have a gang's not the right word, but you know what I mean? A brotherhood, a collection of guys doing stuff productive, Fight Club, record labels. I mean, I did all the same things, by the way. I had a record label. I was a DJ. I was a professional full-time DJ for about 4 years. Traveled all around the country, playing clubs all night long, lasers shooting out top of my head. So I still got, literally right behind me are my 1200s still in the coffin. And I got like 1200 records over here down from like 10,000.
Nice.
Love it. I love it. So tell me though, like what's the Hotep vibe so that my peoples can get a good feel for that?
First of all, let me just give everyone the reference. HotepNation.com. Hit the FAQ button, or you can just type in your search engine, Hotep FAQ, and a lot of the questions will be answered there. But Hotep literally translates to peace or satisfaction, or to be at rest. Could even mean tomb. There's several definitions. You'll see them on the website, and that's ancient Medu Neter is the language, ancient Egyptian, basically. And so that's what the word Hotep means. Black liberals turn it into a pejorative.
Who turned it into pejorative?
Black liberals.
Oh, I see. What's that
Yeah.
about? How could being at peace be a pejorative?
Exactly. Exactly. Like that's the conundrum, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're at diametrically opposed ends as far as ideology is concerned. Our ideologies are diametrically opposed. So they're very offensive. And in the conscious community, going back, late 60s, 70s, 80s, we were greeting each other in the community. Hotep, we were saying Hotep. Like you say good night, good morning, we say Hotep. So because they knew that was part of our language, they called us Hoteps and used it as a label to lambast us and basically try to ridicule our conjecture, I guess you can say. I don't know.
Well, what is? I mean, I think a lot of us are familiar with what the liberal ideology is, but like, what's the Hotep ideology? What makes you guys an object of ridicule for them? Because we do know that ridicule is one of their tools, right?
Yeah.
The liberals, the radical left, the progressives, rules for radicals. It's like rule number 11. It's like ridicule your opponents, ridicule.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, obviously they see you as some sort of threat. Otherwise, they would just ignore you. What is it about your ideology? What is it, first of all, and then what is that interplay between him and you and the liberals, the black liberals?
Well, they'll say it's rooted in white supremacy, capitalism, so on and so forth. Because we talk a lot about economics, and they feel that capitalism is some white supremacy created system, whatever. And they're all basically controlled by Marxists and socialists. So of course they're going to be anti-capitalist. But when Trayvon Martin was murdered and so on and so forth, they didn't like our solutions. I was saying things like, invest in yourself, buy black, the things that Black Lives Matter is talking about now, outside of some of their rhetoric. But I was saying a lot of these problems can be solved if we controlled our communities. And, if you didn't have white cops, you wouldn't, if the 99% of the police force was black, you wouldn't have these problems. When we look at how the Irish stopped being looked at as like white N-words, and Italians the same way. Well, what they do, they took over fire departments, they took over police departments, right? These essential jobs. So, I mean, if black people are concerned about police brutality, then maybe we just take some of the kids who may be headed in the wrong direction at a very early age and just head them down to the police academy, straight out of high school or whatever, and get them trained up that way. But, it is what it is.
Interesting. So you think that they they see you guys as a threat because you push in self-reliance and self-sustenance and independence and building your own thing and building your own community and taking responsibility for your own lives, right? Like being focused on yourself.
Yeah.
You own it. It's you. Who else is going to be responsible?
Yeah. They're poverty pimps, race pimps. So they get to play the victim card, and the victim card is very profitable. And our type of rhetoric will put them on the unemployment line. So it's very important for them to ridicule us. You know, because we're like, all right, racism is going to exist. You know, it's like the debate um, that Walter E. Williams had in the state versus blacks, or the state against blacks. And he's up there arguing with a black congressman and another black liberal. And you could just tell by the way they were acting. You know, it's just like very immature and not really caring for the black community. It's all about, oh, government has to do for us, government has to do for us. And Walter E. Williams is saying that even some of the solutions that the government provides that are exact causes of um, unemployment and poverty, you know. So that's another person, you know, I would study, but you'd be hard pressed to find um, Ebony or Essence or the Griot or any of these other, or Root, to even write an article for Walter E. Williams. It's Black History Month. You know, how many of these people would actually exalt somebody like Walter E. Williams or Thomas Sowell or Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? You know, like a lot of people haven't studied the scholars that Hoteps have studied. You know, we have our own set of scholars as opposed to some of their scholars, which would be like Du Bois and Baldwin and I guess King and Barbara Jordan, you know, some of these other type scholars. Whereas we look to, you know, not to say that there's anything wrong with those people, but I think the difference between Hoteps is we'll study those scholars and we'll study our scholars. What they'll do is they'll study their scholars and then they'll lambast our scholars. But we look at the whole spectrum and then draw better conclusions. But it's all about empowerment.
Empowerment. And I think that's part of the reason why there was like crossover appeal between Hotep and Red Pill, where I was hanging out mostly back when I first saw you guys. Because that was really all about, it's just about taking control of your life, wrestling your life away from the narrative, not being a victim to feminist ideology, to like diminished masculinity, or you know, not just like succumbing to this notion that we can't have all male spaces, or you know, the fact that you know, just toxic masculinity, the whole thing. I mean, the idea here is sort of to break out of the matrix, is to just to get off of those rides and to create your own ride and to take responsibility for that, and not only to create your own ride but to create your own team, your own squad, your own community, maybe your whole, you know, nation. Right, Hotep Nation.
Right.
And you know, that's the mark of leadership, I think, man. I think that's the mark of leadership, and I think that's also one reason why they don't like you so much, because you must be dangerous if you're leading people down a path of self-sustenance and independence and independent thinking, breaking away from the matrix, breaking out of the system, releasing the narrative shackles that are upon us. I mean,
Yeah.
that the power of narrative, man. It's like it's so it's everywhere. It's insidious. It really might be one of the most powerful forces in the universe today. The power of narrative, and we see these narrative battles going on right now with AOC and all this other crap we can talk about, but one of the scariest narrative of all to me is that, and look, here's my background. I worked for 10 years in charter schools. I was executive director of charter schools in Washington, D.C. Title I, 100% under the poverty line, 100% African American. You know, they were distressed turnaround, you know, schools that needed to be fixed. And so I have spent 10 years in the trenches trying to help change education in the city, in the inner city for kids in Washington, D.C. And one of the scariest things that I came across was this notion that somehow the solution to these kids' problems wasn't inside of them, and that the solution to the problem was outside of them, and it was somebody else needed to do something, and something else needed to change, and some policy needed to change, or the curriculum needed to be different, or you know, the laws were bad, or the cops are bad, or whatever. But it was never about empowering the individual. And I remember getting pushback from the existing staff and just the vibes in the schools when I would try to emphasize something like that. And man, did I encounter all kinds of racial issues in that environment, which I could describe later. But I want to stick to this idea about narratives. It's like, where does the narrative come from that gets into these kids' heads that they can't do it themselves? And they have to rely on somebody else. And if nothing good happens, it's not their fault.
You think it's the kids? You think the kids think that way?
Well, I think it's put into the kids' minds. I think so. Yeah.
You've
And
seen them
and
act
they
that
break
out?
it. They get broken. They get broken by around third or fourth grade, I think, because
And
there's
think that there's some outside entity that is to blame for their problems?
yes, I think so. I think that the attitude was consistently, if only these other things would change, then I would be all right.
It's not entirely false.
Yeah. Tell me.
We got this thing called the Federal Reserve. You know,
Indeed.
we got things called minimum wage. We got things called regulations and licensing. They're not entirely wrong. They might not have the right attitude, but technically they're correct. The system is rigged against them. I mean, all Americans, but especially the poor.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard to create upward mobility in America as somebody who's poor without having close proximity with somebody that can, one, help change your mindset,
Yeah.
and two, show you how to manipulate the system, right? You need somebody that's manipulated the system to show you to manipulate the system. But if you're surrounded by people who have already been manipulated by the system, how do you even come out of that, right? Like
Yeah.
if everybody around you, like you said, has that mentality that we can't do systems against us, right? You know, how do you even expect the kids to come out of this situation? I don't. When I see a kid come out of the situation, I always think like, wow, it's like freaking amazing. Like, wow, you actually made it out. Like that's impossible. You did the impossible because when I think about information is about who you have close proximity to. A lot of people say, oh, wait, everybody has access to internet. You can Google anything these days. And it's like, yeah, true. But it always comes back to the statement where you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what you don't know, you don't even know what to type into the browser.
Right.
And if I type in, how to make money online, I'm not going to find the best resources. I'm going to find the people who have the best SEO game. Right. And
True.
it might lead me down a path of, you might end up with a drop shipping business and you think, oh, drop shipping is great. But, drop shipping is the type of business that requires 5 to 10K worth of capital before you turn a profit. And a lot of people that'll sell you that type of business won't tell you that. That you need to drop 5 to 10K on ads before you can build a lookalike audience, So there's a lot of dishonesty on the internet as well. So how do they even know where to start with that? It's about who you have close proximity to. So that's why you need more mentors and people to give them access to right information.
Yeah. Examples, leadership, connectivity to the network. It's interesting. Interesting thing you bring up is like, what network are you connected to is so important.
Yeah.
Who are you? What are your adjacencies? What nodes are you connected to? What long hops do those nodes have? How flat can you make the world? How small can you make it? What networks of information can you tap into? And that's true in the old days. It was a smaller scale, different style. Is even more true today, man, in this interconnected social media world where we're all connected. And that's what we're working on, the liminal order, man. We want to create those adjacencies and connect to important nodes, get that information so that we can become stronger, all of us as a network.
Then you got the factor of environment, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I want to say it's 2005. No, just past 2008. It's maybe 2009. I was sleeping on my friend's couch. My parents had moved out of state, and that environment wasn't conducive with upward mobility. I had got robbed by a gang. But my roommates one of them was very negative and the other one was influenced by his negativity. So I would try to be an entrepreneur with the one roommate. I gave him my camera. We started doing things on MySpace. He was doing a Photoshop thing. I gave him access to my computer. Asian kids. He was killing it with the graphics. And then at the same time, I was reading like a whole lot of self-help books. So I remember like one day my roommate came in and it was his place. And he was like, man, you ain't never gonna be ish. Them self-help books ain't never gonna help you. Like that's the type of environment I was around, right? Now we fast forward now, he's still working for restaurants, right? Like he's still serving people in the restaurants. I'm a long way away from that. Like I literally couldn't even go back to that if I wanted to. Um, so the environment, you think about somebody who was younger, right? Like at that point, I'm like 29, so I'm more strong-minded to ignore him and laugh that off. But if you're a kid and somebody comes in and they catch you reading a book and they say to you, "Yo, you ain't never gonna be ish," da 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 da, you might just be discouraged and put the book away. Like, yeah, you're right. White man got his foot on my neck. So environment is very important too. Or what if you live in a house with 8 people and it's just always traffic coming in and out of the house? Like that's what happened in my environment. It's always traffic coming inside of the house. You got one roommate selling drugs, the other one selling guns, so there's traffic, coming in and out of the house all the time. Then you got the parties. It's like, when do you have time to be alone, even in your own house, which means you got to now leave the house, which becomes another burden. So environment is also a problem as well.
I hear you. I hear you. And when I would talk to the guys at school, and we would have board meetings, and we would try to figure out like how do we solve this problem, right? The problem was like how do we get I mean, truly, how do we get the kids to read? You know what I mean? Like we were dealing with kids who in fifth grade, couldn't read, or in eighth grade were reading on like a fourth grade level. Now, how do we get these things? How do we solve these problems? And the conversation inevitably would flow towards systems. It's a system problem. And there's so many bigger issues and so many other factors that play into these circumstances, like you're describing, right? And it was tough because we knew that we were battling tectonic forces that were causing a lot of these circumstances. But at the same time, we didn't have the luxury of being like, change the third strike law or decriminalize cannabis or put a male mentor in everybody, with every kid. Like we just couldn't do these things. So we had to really just focus on how are we going to get these kids, to read? How are we going to get these kids to do math? And it's tough for people who don't know what it's like to understand. But like, imagine a kid getting dropped off at 7 o'clock in the morning because his mom has to go to work. He's there at before care. He gets breakfast from us. He gets lunch from us. He gets a snack, which ends up being the dinner. And mom doesn't pick him up again until 7 p.m. after aftercare. And it's just rinse, repeat every single day. We had washer and dryer in our school because kids couldn't wash their clothes. I mean, when you're dealing with hunger, it's hard to deal with like learning how to read. And these were some of the things that it's depressing. But we worked hard, man. We worked hard. We actually had some really good success. I mean, the 2 schools that I worked for, we turned them around. We got them at least up to like the city averages, right? Like they were underperforming the city by far. But we got them at least up to the city averages, in some cases a little bit beyond. But I do just feel like there was so much more that we could have done. And now I'm looking at the federal policies, and I'm looking at the greater forces at work, and it's like they're all there, and we can talk about it, and we can complain about it, but there's like a magic potion though, and it's that mentality of you can do it, like you can do it. That's it. That's all. That's just it has to be just put into your brain. And you and I started off talking about our childhoods and like the hustle and the entrepreneurship that we just had innately inside of us. It was something that I had to like try to squash. Right. It was just like coming out of me. But, maybe it came from, my dad telling me, every day, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So how do we inject you can do it? I don't know if you have these answers. I just thought it'd be fun to talk to you about it. But like, how do we inject you can do it into the minds of people who are legitimately dealing with structural issues? I'm on the right. I supported Trump or whatever, but I will tell you that there is a whole slew of people on the right that have absolutely no idea about the structural forces that do shape the environment in which underprivileged or folks are trying to live and to succeed in. People have no idea, and when they dismiss the idea of like quote structural racism, there is one element of structural racism that is truly real. All these big forces. But then is it all done with malicious intent today is sort of another question. But the idea that how do we inject you can do it? Just even not even in just the into the underprivileged minority populations in the city, but like anywhere. The biggest poor population in America is white. How do we inject into their brain that they can do it too? Like why don't we think like this? You would think in America, home of you can do it, it would be everywhere, but it's not, is it?
I mean, it's several things you could do. One of them is just a complete brainwashing program, conditioning program, just like they programmed you that you couldn't do it. You can just reinforce you can do it attitude all day, every day, with different types of exercises. You can get creative and do it that way. I think that's one method, but the easiest way is to explain the difference between why somebody is poor and why somebody is rich, and start to break down things like hard work is stupid. You tell a kid, look, don't work hard. You're working hard, you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, America was designed for you to be lazy. Like, when I say it like that to kids, they look at me crazy. Like, what? Everybody told me to work hard. No, if you're working hard, you're doing something wrong. You need to be working.
What's the alternative? Tell us the alternative.
Work often. Don't work hard. Work often. The man at the deli works hard. He's got to get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to get there and open the shop by 6 a.m. And he's going to be there until 8 p.m. at night. And he's not going to make anything. That's hard. He's going to make noodles. That's hard. It's not hard work when you're getting paid a lot of money, So what I say is do what you love and work at it often, no matter what it is. But for example, I say, look, did you know you could be a millionaire in 20 years with a Walmart job? And people will look at me crazy. I'm like, yeah, you could do that, basically investing in the stock market. You just got to not party. Now that's hard, right?
Yeah.
Don't have kids. Now that's hard. Don't have a girlfriend. Now that's hard. Right?
And is that advice you give people?
Yeah.
Don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah. Don't have a girlfriend. Don't have kids, and don't have fun.
You're kidding, but you're not kidding.
Yeah, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Exactly. Like, it's like it's really like choosing the right people around you. If you're gonna have a girlfriend, make sure she's on this page with you, right? How we're investing our money. If you're gonna have friends, well, let's choose the right friends so that we're not around people who party all the time. They just party some of the time, and the rest of the time you guys are putting your chips together trying to get a business off the ground, right? So you want to be with people that have this idea that we can have upward mobility. And then I explained to them, like, a lot of the record labels are really just 7 people, and then the rest is all interns running around getting paid for free. So it's just like you and like 4 of your friends could start a corporation. You and 3 of your friends could start a corporation. One person does this, one person does that. You split the duties, and it's not hard at all. You guys can be a team. The problem with a lot of people is everybody wants to be Michael Jordan. Nobody wants to be the Bulls, So, but, when you got that championship ring, the championship ring pays dividends, after you leave the league. So,
Nobody wants to be Dennis Rodman.
Right. All right. But showing them how people get rich, how to diversify your streams of income, things of that nature. But showing them how to get money is most important, and how money is created. But also admitting it to them the facts, like, look, the system's rigged against you. But guess what? I got a secret to get you out. I'm the Neo in this place. I'm going to show you how to get out of here. But it is rigged against you. But there are back doors to life, and there are loopholes, and people won't give you the loopholes. I'm going to give you the loopholes. Every time you get some money, take 50%, put it away. That's really like 90% of life, is to take 50% of your income and invest it, put it into capital goods, put it into the stock market, put it into Bitcoin. Do not hold that cash, because that cash is corrupt. It's like a poison poem.
It's like butter in the hot sun, my friend. I remember I was trying, I used to do real estate. Well, I'm still a real estate landlord, but I used to do development, right? So I used to go around and try to buy up houses that were distressed and buildings that were distressed and, try to, invest, not just flip, like full rehab, expansion, zoning changes, like the whole thing. And value add, right? That's a good point. Value add, and which is side note, real quick. Flipping houses strikes me like drop shipping. It's like it's quick, it's a market right there, but there's a lot of luck and timing involved. It's not necessarily a value add proposition. Buying a house, painting it, and selling it, that's a gamble. Buying a shell and building a brand new facility, that's an investment, right? So I would go around and I would try to find buildings to buy. And I remember trying to buy those 3 sets of commercial townhouses. And I would talk to the husband, and he would be like, "Yeah, I want to sell it. I want to sell it." And then the wife, I would talk to her, and she'd be like, They owned it free and clear, and they had like a crappy excuse me, they had a crappy little furniture business in there, which wasn't ever really a furniture business because in the city, a furniture business is really a credit business. It's not about the furniture. It's about loaning you the money and then charging you the VIG and then like coming after you in collections and stuff. But the wife would say to me, "I can't let him sell it." Well, why not? She's like, "Well, we'd have all this cash." And I was like, "Okay." And she goes, "Cash is like butter in the hot sun. It just melts away and then it's gone." And you're absolutely right. If you just put it away right away or do something with it right away, you never miss it. You never miss it because it was never quite really there for you. So that's a fantastic advice. And you've taken this and applied it to yourself, right? Like you have built businesses all along the way, man. And I really love the way that our childhood experiences and the hustles, especially music label, whatever it is, the cologne that cracks me up. My son, he's selling candy at school and shoveling sidewalks and going around spray painting addresses, stencils on people's curbs for $20. For $20. He's like, "Hey, you want me to spray your address on the curb?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." He goes out, walks around for 1 hour, makes $100. 14 years old. It's amazing. But what have you turned this into now as an adult, man? Like, what are you really getting into? What are your big things? What are your big projects, man? What is it that's driving you forward into the next phase of your development and then your expansion?
Yeah, so I'm working on this next book on U.S. history, which is turning out to probably be a series because it's just so much research. So that's going to be a fun project to release soon. And then I have the tech projects. I advise companies and how they should grow and market and brand their companies. So we have coinbitsapp.com. That's the Bitcoin app.
Yeah.
Dollar
What does
cost
that do?
averaging. And it's basically a bot that does dollar cost averaging, automatically purchases Bitcoin for you. So you don't got to think about it. You just set up your account and you set the amount that you want to buy. Let's say, $100, $1,000, whatever it is. You set that up and it'll buy automatically.
That's a good plan, man. That's my plan. That's what I do every day. A little bit comes out.
Yeah. So, and then we have the 2 AI apps. One is in synthetic content, aka deep fakes, and then the other one is in video camera analytics. And then we have an iPhone app called Jiffitize, which is the empowers content creators, allows you to download GIFs and videos directly from Twitter to your iPhone. So yeah, and looking to get into more projects, man. I'm just really focused on the Coinbits app project right now because it's booming right now. So looking to get that one off the ground and sold and be my first acquisition.
You looking to launch and then create, launch, and then sell out, cash out?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good plan, man. There's multiple phases of business ownership. Maybe people don't even understand this. You can be a startup creator. There's different skills required to take businesses from one spot to the next. Like to go from zero to something takes a certain set of skills. To go from that to like big range takes a certain set of skills. And then after that, man, you're just talking about making the trains run on time and saving pennies and being an efficient manager. Two completely diametrically opposed perspectives and mindsets and skill sets. I have never been the guy really who could make the trains run on time. But if you have a big project, if we need to turn something around, if we need to create something, we need to start something, I'm your guy. But if my performance is going to be judged on like, did we save the 1% on paper clips this month, I'm probably not your guy. And this is a key difference between being an entrepreneur and being a businessman.
Mm.
Do you have a sense of the distinction?
No.
No. An entrepreneur creates, man. An
Mm.
entrepreneur creates and a businessman runs. Both
Mm.
important. You know, if you buy a franchise, you're a businessman. If you buy an existing business, you're a businessman. You take this thing, you want to make it a little bit better. You want the cash flow. You want it to be steady. You want equity. But entrepreneurship is about creating
Mm.
from zero, from nothing, having vision, manifesting your new reality through personal motivation. It's no wonder that like all entrepreneurs and creators, after a while, they're always talking about manifesting and mindset and personal energy and stuff. I mean, do you do work personally like that? Do you do mindset work and do you believe in manifestation? Do you believe in this kind of stuff, like being able
Yeah.
to create reality just through the power of narrative?
Yeah. That's my motivating force. I have a class I do every Saturday called the Mogul Summit, and every once in a while we'll get into that topic. But what I do is I practice a process of no mind. I escape my mind and or blank out my mind to allow the God influx to inspire, basically creating space for inspiration. And then the God influx brings the information to me or the thoughts to me or the creativity to me, right? So that's one thing I like to do is not to be relying upon the intellectual mind or the earthly mind and rely upon intuition and the spiritual mind. So I'm very much in that world, and I'm very much into the metaphysics of life. And I attribute nearly all of my success to that. Like some people say, "Oh, you're really intelligent," and I'm like, "No, I'm not actually that intelligent. I'm just really conscious of myself,
Mm.
right?" Because there's a lot of smart people in this world that are not conscious of themselves. They don't hear themselves when they speak. They don't hear others when they speak because they're so caught up in themselves, you know. Um, but me, I try to be conscious of myself and everything around me. And I have several books I'll be publishing um, on that length
Tell
of
me,
mindset.
how do you clear your mind, dude? I relate 100% to this. I knew that we were going to have a lot of things in common, man.
Mhm.
Meditation, clearing my mind. I used to describe it as like it feels like inspiration. It feels like something sudden just clicks. I used to describe it as like my brain would be compiling the data, and like
Mm,
I can't sit there and go through the data. I have to
mm,
like take it in, and then I have to just let something back here do its
mm,
thing, or maybe something up here do its thing. But the way you described it was no mind and making space.
mhm,
That's brilliant. How do you do that? I'll tell you how I do it for me. But how do you, like, literally step by step? Like, how do you make space in your
mhm.
mind for the what you call the God influx, which is a tremendous phrase. I love it.
Um, well, basically, the intellectual mind is pretty much just a computer, right? But it can only process one thought at a time. We have thousands of thoughts, but you can only maintain one thought at a time. You know, when people say I'm thinking multiple things at the same time, that's actually not true. You're just having intervals
Mm-hmm.
between combined thoughts. So what you have to do is you actually have to distract the mind. And the best way to distract the mind is to focus on the five senses. So I say if you ever really want to enter a state of no mind or hack your way to no mind, um, eat something really pungent, or go grab some organic honey, take a teaspoon of that, put that in your mouth, and tell me what you're thinking about after that. I bet you're only thinking about that teaspoon of honey. Go get taste a hot chili pepper. I bet the only thing you're thinking about is that hot chili pepper, right? So that's a good way to um, enter a state of no mind, right? The mind cannot think about anything except for that moment. So what I do is I focus on the five senses. So it's actually, I mean, I've gotten to the point now where it's actually easy for me to enter a state of no mind. Um, just not at night when it's time for me to go to sleep.
Sometimes that's the time you need it the most, dude.
Yeah, yeah. But if I need to like enter a state of no mind for inspiration, it's just really easy for me. I just focus on the five senses. Falling asleep is really hard. That takes negative breathing. But if I wanna just enter a state of no mind, I'll turn on some classical music or the deep breathing and like if you breathe in the air in your house, you actually don't notice a scent. But if you go to somebody else's house, you'll notice a scent. So the trick is try to notice the scent in your house and you'll enter a state of no mind.
Hmm.
So I'll try to breathe and like smell what my house smells like, even though I won't smell a thing. But that action alone actually clears the mind.
Everybody watching is sniffing their house right now. What do I smell? What do I smell? You're absolutely right, dude. And
You can close your eyes too, because when you keep your eyes open, it's your brain's processing too much shit too. So closing your eyes helps as well.
yeah, that's one thing people don't realize so much is that our tools of perception aren't meant to expand to absorb as much information as possible. They're actually meant to filter information because there's infinite data, and we only have a finite capacity to process and observe. So our perceptive tools are actually collapsing most of the time to block out most of the stuff. And I found, excuse me, the one way. Hold on one sec. I found the one best way for me to enter the similar state like this. Again, exactly right. Engage the five senses, and what I do is I just narrate what I'm observing.
Mm.
I am sitting in this room. I'm feeling warm. My skin feels this, or my hands are on that, or I can hear my breathing. And you just start to describe the environment to yourself that you're in, and you can really bring a centering and a focus. And of course, meditation for me is always just about the breath and just breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. But there's other ways too. Exercise. There's a reason why walking is so popular and always recommended by great thinkers. Walking, it clears the mind, it focuses you, it allows that influx to come into the God influx, as you said. It's fascinating that across all walks of life, all areas of success, across time and space and geography and civilization and culture, successful people have focused on how to clear your mind.
Yeah.
How to allow for that inspiration to come.
Hmm.
And walking has been universal for making that happen. But we've lost that. We don't teach any of that shit in school. Man, there goes my monetization. We don't teach any of that crap in school.
Yeah.
We don't teach. I mean, they do talk about mindfulness, but it's not exactly what we're talking about here. It's sort of surface level kind of stuff. I remember recently.
A teacher can't teach you what they ain't got.
They ain't what they don't know. I know. The other day, my daughter was having a moment, and she was upset. She was hurting. She rose crew, and she was woke up in the middle of the night, and her legs hurt, and she was basically overtrained. Is what it is. Varsity crew, man, they're crushing her. And I'm like, I'm observing her, and I just see her slip. She's distressed, but then I see her just go like 5 times without being prompted. And it was like one of the proudest moments that I had, because if I could just that one tool, man, that one tool will separate you from 90% of the people out there. And you said it, you said it right. People don't have consciousness of self. They don't have consciousness. What a word I've been using lately has been intentionality. Intentionality is a superpower today. It always has been, but even more so today. If you are mindful about your decisions, your actions, your food, your associations, the information you consume, the places that you go, you can do anything in this world. Anything, as long as you're mindful and intentional about it. Because today we are purposefully bombarded with misinformation, disinformation. The whole information space is purposefully polluted. If you bob along the ocean of culture, you will end up in debt, obese, fat, dying, sick, and chained to a desk. That's what happens if you just follow the flow. So to be intentional is to disengage from that and to take another route. Did you have to do a lot of self work to get to this point? Was it something that came naturally?
It was all self work, and you reminded me of something. A lot of these news stories pop up, And I used to consistently say, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. And one day somebody asked me, he said, it's a distraction from what? And I said, it's a distraction from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what this whole game is about. It's about overloading your life with stimuli so you never actually focus on yourself. Yesterday I had an interview on a podcast, and he's asking me about, how do you plan on helping the black community? And my response was, I don't. I'm gonna help my damn self. Um, because a community is made up of individuals, and if you watch how I move, you'll be inspired, hopefully. And I'm here. You can reach out. You can join my Saturday class, whatever, and I can help you. I can be a mentor to you. But at the end of the day, you can't help the poor if you wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to raise myself to a certain level before I can even say I'm going to help somebody. you know I got 4 kids. I got a lot on my own plate before I even think about the black community. um but I'm really focused on my own self-development. When I reach the level of a guru, then probably I'll turn back and say, okay, now I believe I'm in a position to help the black community. But I also believe the black community doesn't need my help. Black community is going to be just fine. I'm not worried about the state of the black community. But yeah, a lot of these distractions are to distract you from yourself. Um, so you just got to just be one step better than you were yesterday.
Indeed. And to take care of, if you want to change the nation, the first step is changing yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the mission of the liminal order. We change ourselves to change the culture. That's our goal. Or we help men help mankind. That's our goal. But where do we start? Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's like where do we if you want to change the world and you want to join us in the liminal order, man, the first thing I'm going to ask you is like, how you sleeping, bro? And then it's going to be, how much are you working out? And then it's going to be, what are you eating? And then what are you reading? And how are you meditating? That's the first step. Taking care of yourself first
Mm-hmm.
is not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Yeah.
it is your duty. It is your
Yeah.
duty to take care of yourself first, take care of your family after that. If you can manage that,
Mm-hmm.
then you can reach out to your community. And if you can
Yeah.
manage that, then maybe you can have influence on the nation. But starting with yourself and focusing on yourself and making sure that you are well slept, well fed, exercised, well read, and chilled out in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
that is the first step. And I feel like people get this notion that like if you prioritize going to the gym, then somehow you're being selfish or vain or whatever the case. And again, that's just one of those currents. It's one of those
Mm-hmm.
currents that if you just catch on to that drift, then you're just gonna end up fat, sick, and dead. Fat,
Mm-hmm.
sick, dead, and in debt, even in death.
Well, it goes, I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the things that are possessed inside. Right?
Yeah.
So when I think of that song, I think if you want to change the world, you got to affect the youth. And something that is, maybe an annual tweet, maybe every 6 months I'll tweet, I'll say to all the adults, especially like at those times where Twitter's like really catty, I'll say, don't forget the kids are watching us, because kids don't do what you say, they do what you do, right? So that's why I say, like, I don't really gotta like intentionally try to help the black community. Black kids are watching me, right? So that's why I said, like, all I really have to do is be the example. For example, like when I set my goals super high. So somebody says, okay, what are you gonna do for the black community? I'm like, okay, let's take it another level. What am I going to do for the world? Right. So now I'm like in this space where, all right, maybe world is too high. What am I going to do for this nation? Right. Like, how can I just increase the welfare of this nation? And I said, I can do it through this Twitter account simply by how I respond to people, by how I respond to negativity, will teach people. So somebody, I responded to somebody one day and another person said, yo, you got like the patience of a, something, something, which is true. I have like an immense ton of patience, you know, um, but how we interact with each other. And that's why it's especially important for people with large platforms to not engage in some of the catty behavior. Like right now, the big story is the whole AOC thing. And like everybody's jumping through hoops to, she was here at 1:21 p.m. and she did this at this time and she did this at that time and she's a liar. And it's just like, all right, after you're done proving she's a liar, what changes in everybody's life? Nothing. You had fun for a couple of hours, but basically you just acted like a bunch of women, not to offend anybody. But it turns into gossip girl hour. Now I know we have fun, there was a hashtag trending and we get our jokes off, so on and so forth. But it's when we do this stuff for extended periods of time where it becomes problematic. Okay, we call AOC in a lie. Great, cool. On to the next one, on to the next important issue. Or where do we go from here after we catch her in a lie, right? Like what's the end game in that? If it's just to say she lied, it's just like, all right, well, name me one politician who doesn't lie. Like that's what Congress does. And I saw one of my homies tweet the other day. He said AOC's lie is the most harmless lie a congressman ever had. Like if you think about the lies that Congress people have had, like there's been much worse things that Congress has lied about or is hidden from us, you know? So, it's just like how we respond to these events, how much weight we give these events, and the thing is, with the whole AOC thing is all you're doing is going to empower her, like you just juicing her up because the left isn't going to stop backing her. You're just going to give them more reason to back her. It's like, oh my God, the conservatives are attacking her. She's a sexual assault victim, blah, blah, blah. You guys are evil. So it's like you falling right for the play, So it's just like, living in your higher mind and your higher self wouldn't allow you to stoop so low to attack a woman online, but again, the grift is strong.
Are you thinking about anybody in particular?
No,
No. Okay.
it's everybody. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, some people have jobs whose job it is to cover politicians and to do that kind of fact checking, right? So, like,
Right.
I can see why that is important. But even I was like bored with not even I was definitely bored with the AOC story right off the bat. I didn't even bother watching the Instagram rant or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
people lie, people embellish on live streams. I mean, it just happens. She lied, whatever. She's a liar. They're all liars.
Right.
What caught my attention really though was after the fact when she starts marshaling all of her troops to report all of this stuff as lies and misinformation. Now that is actually a big issue. A government official getting fact checked by the press and then using her power to silence the free press. That's actually a pretty big problem. But I do hear what you're saying though.
When I look at all of these events, I go, well, that's what the purpose was. To silence the free press. She literally set us up.
Yeah.
Because she has the power to do that. Which is why I said, had we not all been attacking her, she doesn't even try to draw up that type of narrative, and silence you. It's like you're free press, right? And what happens with all of us is the left dictates the subjects we could talk about, right? There's infinite amount of things in this world we can talk about, right? Let's talk about what conservatism is. Conservatism's about, the First Amendment, two-way, family, God, and country, right? Like, why aren't those the subjects day in, day out? It's like every day we wake up and we're like, what's the left doing? What's Biden doing? What's AOC doing? So it means they're technically in control. when you could have just said, all right, this is what the left is doing, but here's what we're doing today. Let's go highlight Jack Murphy and what's happening in his life. Jack Murphy's doing some great things with the liminal order. Let's all 10, Newsmax, ON, let's all just hop in and get behind this guy for a day and make him trend. Then we pick the next guy and make him trend. And you make the right strong, the left will be powerless in a few years, but that would take organization. The thing is that the right isn't as organized as the left. We saw with Greta Thunberg, she's being fed these tweets and ideas to tweet, right? And it leaked and she had to go back and delete the tweet. But the left is very organized. As you saw with AOC, she's like mobilizing her people to go dismantle, right, the free press. But the right don't organize like that. It's like every man for himself, like every grifter for himself. And that's why the right has no power, because they're just basically playing on the left's battlefield all the time.
Definitely. Follow the dance is a dance partner, and the left is leading. The left is leading. They're guiding, they're spinning, they're twirling, they're bending us, they're dipping us, they're doing all of that. And it made me wonder, and I talked about this on Tim Pool last night. Why then? Why a month later is she doing this rant? Why a month later is she making up this story? What kind of distraction is she causing? Why is she deliberately causing a distraction? Why is she deliberately sucking all the attention towards her? And it's the same thing that Trump used to do. When he had something that he was working on over here, he'd point everybody up over there. And my thought was, on the same day that AOC is doing her rant, you've got NPR, Reuters, and a whole host of other people talking about new domestic terrorism, counterinsurgency initiatives, and why we need to apply the lessons that we learned in Afghanistan and Iraq to here in the United States against our own homegrown insurgencies that we have here. So instead of talking about that and the forthcoming, Patriot Act 3.0 and that hot poker that's coming right in the eye of all of us soon enough, we're talking about, some chick ranting on Instagram. It's like, can we evolve? Can we evolve beyond that?
Yeah.
I love your idea, not because you just mentioned liminal order, but like throwing the weight that we have, because we do have weight and our networks have weight, throwing them behind something productive and creative and build something. That's a good idea, but you're right. It takes cooperation. It takes a little bit of sacrifice. It takes an ego, stepping away from your ego, so that you can take the time to pump somebody up instead of being the one who gets pumped up all the time. That kind of coordination is hard to do. Especially most of the alignment that we have is emergent, right? It's like, oh, I see this thing, I kind of like it. Oh, I see this thing, I kind of like it. Oh, we're sort of working on the same team for now. But that alignment can dissipate very quickly, very quickly. We saw the alignment between Antifa and BLM and the left dissipate like that. The second Biden was,
because the goal is fleeting, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about like organization, I think about Hotep Nation. When our president first launched his brand, he had a soap brand he launched. Man, we organized and we had, he probably had like 50 people selling his product, like we all just got behind that product, and it launched his brand, got off the ground. That thing is moving now to the point where he launched a second brand and he doesn't even need the help, but when you're a part of Hotep Nation and you have something you're about to launch, it's like we just all hop in and say, all right, all hands on deck. This is what's happening now. Right. And everybody hop in. The right doesn't have that. And I mean, the biggest thing they had was Trump, right? Everybody got behind Trump. But then still we even reacted to the left. And, Trump was very beholden to his base, and his base I think the base didn't understand the power they had over Trump. They knew they had power, but they didn't understand how much power they had. And they really could have controlled Trump. And they dropped the ball with that. And I think the reason is because the base is controlled by the influencers. The influencers are all out for themselves. And if the influencers would have controlled the base would have controlled Trump. And Trump's behavior could have been different. His reactions to things could have been different. And life could be different right now.
I'm fairly sure that Q was a hostile phenomenon intended to do exactly what you're talking about right there. To distract the energy, to divert the energy, to get people focused on something that wasn't real, and then not to influence Trump, and to just sit back and think everything is going to be just fine if we don't do anything. Just wait, just wait. If you boil down the essence of Q, the message was sit back, wait, do nothing. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. That's a passive command. I mean, it's an active command to you, but the command is to be passive.
Right.
Trust, sit, wait. Don't do anything. Don't take any action. Don't be proactive. Just wait. Trust the plan. Bro, it's all going to be taken care of for you. You don't have to do anything. Q was a disaster, and it culminated in January 6th, and it's kicking off whatever we're going to have here for the next who knows how long. But one thing I want to circle back on is about having a community, right? First of all, I didn't know that there was a president of Hotep Nation and that you weren't it. So I'd like to learn more about that. Second of all, in the liminal order, man, we do the same exact thing. We have incubated from a random message into a full-fledged business with sales, marketing, release to the world, more than one business. We've got a ton of them in the works. We've got new software being written, new tech companies being developed. We have financiers, venture capitalists, private equity guys, full stack tech developers. And we got almost 500 guys now. So we got guys from every walk of life, every profession, every level. Anybody has an idea, man, we can build it. And that's part of our main ethos, 100%. We're a values-based organization. The three values are masculinity, brotherhood, and sovereignty. Masculinity is honor, courage, loyalty, mastery. We are providers, protectors, creators, instructors. And so that is the orders, the marching orders to everybody in the LO. Build, create, instruct, provide, protect. And then you add it to brotherhood, loyalty, community, service to each other. And the goal is sovereignty. Personal sovereignty, physical sovereignty, narrative sovereignty. And so you need squads like that. It works for you guys. It's working for us. You need a network of people that you can almost live, work, and play with. And in fact, we joke in the LO about not only live, work, and play, but marry our sons and daughters. And when it first came up, it was like, we kind of chuckled at that. Oh, that seems kind of extreme. But actually, no, it's not extreme. It's totally normal. It's perfectly natural. It's the way history has evolved. That's how you build a community. It's how you share your values. It's how you grow something that's important to you, is by making sure that your kids and your offspring and your family tree and your descendants share those same values. And so it's just it's inspiring to me to hear you guys doing something very similar. It's inspiring to me to see what's happening in LO every single second like that. But yet these are like little secrets. Little secret societies. It's like we're holding on to like a little flame, and we're like the last people holding on to this flame, and we have to protect it. Otherwise, it's going to go out, and then we're all done. We're all done because nobody's teaching it. There's no adjacencies for the people that need it for it to be transmitted to them, and so it's like a secret society in that we have an answer to our own problems. And we're trying to keep this flame alive amidst gale force winds trying to blow it out every step of the way, man. I really relate to what you guys are doing there.
Nah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. That's dope.
Yeah. So who was the president of Hotep Nation? I had no idea that there was even like a organization or whatever. That's interesting to me. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, author of a $1 trillion Nation, A.R. Morton, a.k.a. Doe Dubes. He's our president, been our president for several years. Absolutely. Yeah.
Got it. And do you guys have like legal structure and everything? I mean, this is, that's awesome.
Yeah, 501.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's
Business
the future?
bank account.
What's the future of that? Where's that going? What's the vision?
Well, creative content, as you saw with the grifties. So Hotep Nation will sponsor that, right? So creative content, keep people engaged, but also taking donations and building out workshops to teach kids finance and fintech.
There you go.
Yeah.
Outreach to the youth.
Yeah.
Outreach to the youth. This is key. The children are the future. I
Children
can't
are the
believe
future.
you were singing in my ears, man. But what's incredible is like that theme perfectly on point with us too. And these are timeless. These are timeless ideas, and
Hmm.
that's why the education system is so corrupted right now because the bad guys they know
Yeah.
they want that power, and they're using those channels direct to your children's brains to pump down this nonsense that the whole society needs to be dismantled because white people built it with, through history or whatever your argument is. But the whole thing needs to be torn apart because it's obviously terrible and horrible. And you
Hmm.
should be ashamed. You should be ashamed. I was listening in on my daughter's class the other day, 8 years old, and they were talking about Martin Luther King.
Hmm.
And they kept asking the little kids, what did Martin Luther King say? What are ideas? And the answers that would come back would be like fair, equity, justice. And I heard the teacher trying to talk about justice. And off side, I was like, psst, say he didn't want people to judge each other by the color of their skin. Because they didn't say that in the whole class. It never came up once. A whole class talking about Martin Luther King and his speeches and his ideas. They never mentioned that once. So I was proud of my little 8-year-old girl for just saying that. Because it resonates with me. I was raised that way, dude. I was raised that way. And that's the part that bothers me the most about some of this stuff going on right now. When I was growing up, I first of all, I was bused from the suburbs into the inner city. And so I went to school in a forced integrated school. Well, it was elective because it was magnet, but the idea was they tried to force everybody, but they couldn't. It failed. So they created incentives to switch, to get people to integrate. So we integrated. So I have been taught my whole life, color doesn't matter. Be colorblind. Anybody can do anything. Judge anybody by their actions. That's it. It was like gouge your eyes out. It's fine. I'm blind now. It's cool. Everything's good. I live that. I love it. But now today, that whole story been turned on its head, and it's like focus on color. Look at people's races. We're not the same. You people are good. You people are bad, and it's only getting worse. It seems, and disengaging from that whole system has never been more appealing than it is right than it is right now, dude.
Ain't that the
Just to
truth?
get out, man. Get out. Do you feel like you've managed to float now above the system? Have you created a sovereign space for you and your family to live according to your values,
No,
unfettered? No?
no, not yet, not yet. I mean, the system is everywhere. Um, it's all around us. You breathe it. You know. I believe we'll be free from the system when I won't smell it anymore. I mean, the system, it pollutes our oceans, it pollutes our air, it it lacks distribution of natural foods. I mean, think about all the foods that exist in the world, and in like less than 1% of them even exist in our grocery stores. If I go to the produce section right now, the system is limiting what I can eat. People say, "Oh, look at these great foods." I'm like, "Look at these great foods that aren't here, like cassava, like look at the plants that are outlawed, like iboga, right? The thing that they use to treat heroin addicts. We're still subject to this system. No matter how much we elevate, until we have access to all types of foods. That's really step one for me. Diversity of food. Right now you go and you get apples and oranges and corn, and it's like that's it, right? It's just like, and the thing is, like half the foods in the produce section are hybrid plants. They're not the originals. You won't get you a yellow watermelon out of, I got to go to Harlem to get me a yellow watermelon. You know, you won't find the tiny bananas. I got to go to the Spanish market to get my tiny bananas, which are sweeter and got seeds in them. The bananas that we are accustomed to, the Chiquita long bananas, are actually a hybrid banana. They don't even produce seeds, right? And the real banana is supposed to produce seeds, but what happened was there was some sort of attack on the bananas back in the day, and to save that species, they created this hybrid And that's what they've been feeding us, this hybrid starch thing they call a banana. It's just so much wrong in the abundance of fast food and synthetic foods. Yeah, no, I'm not above the system yet.
Is it possible? Is it possible? Is it
Everything is
possible
possible.
today in this society, in this time, in this history,
Yeah.
to truly find sovereignty? I'm working towards it, man. Like I got a whole plan.
As
But
an individual,
yeah,
if you buy an island, you'll potentially have sovereignty, but it'll always be a threat,
yeah.
right? But until everyone has sovereignty, no one has sovereignty. Unless you're an oligarch.
Yeah, sovereignty for me, but not for thee, is definitely the theme. That's an interesting philosophical point actually to think about. Is sovereignty within an existing government like this is impossible, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we don't have the sanctioned power of violence and prisons, and they do, and they can use them,
Hmm.
and the power of taxation at the end of a gun and all of that.
Hmm.
But is that to say that we shouldn't try or strive for sovereignty? I get this. I get this a lot. When I talk, I'm constantly talking about take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your community. Reach towards sovereignty. Build a homestead. Independent food sources, independent water sources, independent electricity sources. Not even to get off the grid altogether, but to get off the grids you want off of and onto the grids that you want to be on.
Hmm.
Your intentional connectivity. People are like, oh, but we need to do this with the government and all the Ruby Ridge you'll get Waco'd, whatever. As if that's a reason to not try,
Hmm.
right? People
Hmm.
try to discourage me from trying because something bad could happen or a negative outcome could occur. But I'm not going to stop trying. So maybe there is a mindset to adopt here that is, it's like the struggle's never over. It's never going to end. It's risky. It may not work, but we better damn well do it.
Well, look at Italy and how they responded to the lockdowns. They were so successful. Police joined the marches in against the lockdowns. Right. When I look at that, I see hope. It's America and some parts of Europe where people are wholly brainwashed. It seems like where mass media is most successful, lockdowns are most successful.
Mm.
Right. And
Good connection there.
yeah, and it's our cohorts, it's our peers who are keeping us locked down, because they'll say, "Oh, we didn't properly lock down," so you're advocating for a lockdown. Um, it's in order for us to be free, we first ought to free our minds, and a lot of people's minds just aren't free. You're not free to question anything, and when you do question anything, you're a QA conspiracy theorist, or they try to find some way to launch an attack at you. But it's just like, oh, okay, you're Agent Smith. The system has actually invaded your body and taken it over. So it's really just about operating as a free mind to inspire more free minds and inspire people to just say no. Just say no. Like the whole campaign against drugs. I think it was Bush's wife. Just say no, right?
Nancy Reagan. Nancy
Oh, it
Reagan.
was
Just
Nancy
say
Reagan
no.
said that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nancy Reagan. Yeah. So
Just say no. It's
it's like you got to say no to government. Just say no to masks. Just say no to stupid 19. Just say no. Say no to the vaccine. Just say no.
You said everybody's an Agent Smith, man. We live in a sea of Smiths,
Yeah.
a sea of Smiths, a tidal wave of Smiths. And
Hmm.
this is something we really stress, man. It's like I remember Jordan Peterson said, "People don't have ideas; ideas have people." Well, guess
Hmm.
what? All these people are had by ideas out there. They just took it and they not no critical analysis, no thought, whatever, bobbing along a sea of Smiths.
Yeah.
That is what they are. Personal sovereignty starts and ends with the idea that you will choose your own belief system. that you will choose your own ideas, that you will elect to believe an idea so long as that idea serves you and the people in the way that you want it to be served. Do not be had by an idea. And it's fascinating to me to see our parallels here. We've zeroed in on the same problems. We see the same issues, and we've even taken the same steps. You got to clear your mind to find the divine inspiration, to find the God influx, to just compile the data and be inspired. There's so many things it takes to be sovereign. So much energy, so much consciousness, so much intentionality every day. It's like a job. It's like having another job. But if you do it long enough, just like with any skill, any technique, anything, it becomes second nature. It takes reps and practice and coaches and teammates and goals and energy. And it sounds like you guys are building something similar. It sounds like you've built something similar for yourself in your own personal life. But I want to tie it in now to something that you said maybe a little bit more personal. I got 3 kids, man. 8, 14, 15. Best thing I ever did my whole life. Wish I had more. Wish I started earlier.
Yeah.
Love them to death. Best thing. Joy. Absolute rapturous joy.
Yeah.
What are you teaching your kids? How do you teach them? How do you transmit these messages? You sit down at the dinner table and you tell everybody, shut up, and do you preach? I'm kidding. Do you I got a whiteboard in my dining room, dude. I'm breaking down things for the kids on the whiteboard all the time. When I'm driving them places, I'm preaching. Something comes up. But do you ever, what is your strategy? How do you handle imparting this information onto your children in a way that they're going to listen?
Yeah.
Because we're still stuck with that thing about dad sometimes. My daughter's coach will tell her, I'll tell her A, and my daughter's coach, and she'll say no. And then her coach will tell her the same thing. She's like, oh, that's a great idea. Which is natural, right? So like, how do you take all this and be a parent?
Yeah. We grab some material, maybe a video for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or a document. We'll take turns reading it and then discuss it for an hour, all types of different concepts and things about life. Especially when something pops up in life and I'm like, all right, we need to discuss this. But yeah, piece by piece, and then try to relate everything back together, but I think it's about the time you spend. Just spend time talking. It doesn't even have to be like a formal lecture. Like I give formal lectures to the kids, but it's really more interactive, so I'll play a video, like let's say Walter E. Williams. I play a video. My daughter's 17, so I'm expecting more from her than the boys because they're 11. So I'll say, thoughts. What do you think about that, what we just watched? And then she'll give me a breakdown, and then we'll just walk through her breakdown. And then I create an environment where nobody's right or wrong. It's just, here's a thought and here's an opposing thought, right? And both can be true and both can be wrong. So it's really open-ended, right? So when she potentially says something I disagree with, I won't disagree. I won't say that's wrong or I disagree. Instead, I frame it in a space and I'll say, what did you think about this? Or what do you think about this? And then she'll stop and she'll think. She goes, okay, that's true too. I get that, right? Because sometimes what happens is when you do the disagree thing, they withdraw, right? And you don't want them to withdraw. No. So you always want them engaged and ready to go in the conversation so you can keep the conversation going. And they'll always be open and ready to talk to you about anything. So, that's the environment I create.
That's a great piece of advice right there. Parents, don't try to be right. Just try to keep the communication open.
Yeah.
I've learned that lesson the hard way. I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way because I can get a little passionate sometimes. And
Hmm.
when your kids are coming at you with something they heard from somebody else who's diametrically opposed to your worldview, it's
Hmm.
hard not to get jazzed up.
Hmm.
So one piece of advice I would give other parents out there is like, just with all narratives and all ideas, whoever's first usually wins, bro. So like,
Yes.
try to be first and try to be early so that by the time they make it into high school or where it starts shit earlier than that, by the time they get influenced by people that have views that are unproductive for them and counter to what believe your values, that they have a baseline for reference
Yeah.
so that when they hear it they're like, well, that's not what I heard, instead of never talking about any of this crap, and then they come home from school and they're like, daddy, I'm a toaster gender. And you're like, oh god. And you got to start from scratch, and you have to detach that ego invested idea that they have that I'm a toaster gender, I'm gender toaster. They
Hmm.
believe it. They were proud to tell you. I mean, this did not happen with my family, by the way. It's just an
Right.
example. But like, they're proud to tell you that they learned it, they've adopted it, it's part of their worldview. And kids are malleable and they try things out all the time. But
Yeah.
you got to be first. You got to be first and early and consistent, and truly by example. But I for me, one of the best things I'm going to take away from this conversation is a reminder that being right isn't the point of the conversation with my kids. The point of the conversation is the conversation, and
Hmm.
to create a dynamic that will facilitate conversation forever,
Correct.
not to win this one right now. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you're wrong, why you're wrong, and your teacher's wrong, all your friends and your friends' parents are wrong. I'm going to tell you right now.
Hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't work, bro. Trust me, I tried it.
Yeah, it's not gonna work at all.
It's
Yeah.
not going to work at all.
Yeah. It's better to just have a great relationship with your kids than to try to control them.
Yeah. Or even just to control what they're thinking.
Yeah. And like I said, they're the future. So at some point, they're gonna know better than you, right?
I hope.
You just have to bestow them with that wisdom that you've gotten and that experience that you've gotten, and say, here's where we've gotten so far. I need you to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
So here's what I've been able to do. What can you do with this? Here's my truth. Expand upon this, right? And here's the lies in the world. Expand upon this, right? But always keeping that door open for conversation, and saying, for example, with my daughter, we do brunch every Sunday, just me and her every Sunday, and that's our time together. No cell phones, just me and her brunch, just talk and just have this conversation. So the new thing is, I'm trying to talk about it without revealing it. Let's just say she has desires to go mainstream, and I want her to be independent, right? So I didn't say to her, don't be independent. I just laid out the pros and cons, like, hey, going, mainstream has its perks. Here are the cons. Here's the pros of being independent. Here are the cons of being independent. And basically, how we ended the conversation was, I don't want you to have to make this decision today. This is a conversation we're going to have for the next year. And maybe a year from now, you'll make this decision. But we'll just continue to have this conversation until whatever decision you make makes sense. And I'll show you how to navigate that decision. So if she chooses to go mainstream, I'll say, okay, good. Watch out for this. Watch out for this. Do this. Don't do that. Instead of me saying, don't do that because I'm afraid of what might happen. Who knows?
Mm.
She might do something in the mainstream that nobody's ever been able to accomplish before, right? Who am I to say it can't be done in mainstream? Maybe this new generation knows something I don't know. There's been times where I'm fiddling with the PlayStation and my son, 11 years old, comes around and shows me some shit I didn't even fucking know about. It was like, yo, these kids know this technology better than I do. So it's about giving them freedom, and letting them roam, but still guiding them, saying, "Hey, watch out for the fox on the side of the road. Watch out for the wolf over there, and go straight. I didn't want you to go that way, but if you're going to go that way, I can show you how to go down that path."
I'm facing a similar circumstance right now with my daughter who, at her school, College, 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 college all the time. College, college, college all the time. If you don't go to college, you're going to live in your mom's basement. You're going to be a loser for the rest of your life. If you don't go to college, got to go to a fancy college. That college costs $60,000 a year. You got to do that. That's $250,000. Got to do it. No questions asked. Don't even question. Don't ask a question. So we're having that conversation. We're having that conversation right now, and it's tough. It's tough because there's a lot of forces working on her, trying to tell her that the only way to be successful is to go to a high level college and to pay all that money and to get into the system and to become part of the machine. And it's a tough struggle because, yes, I went to college and I went to master's. I got a master's from Georgetown. Still paying for that thing, by the way, 45 years old. But did it work for me? I think maybe. I don't know. I'm not doing anything that sort of path would have described. But yet all that information and all the things that I learned, I use every single day when I'm talking to people. So it's hard to say. But the last thing I want to see for my kids is for them to end up fat, sick, in debt, and chained to a desk. And so this is what I keep trying to tell them. And I think that we've settled down on like two options. It's like, one, if you can get a scholarship and go to a good school, whether it's an academic scholarship or an athletic scholarship, go for it. Top school, go for it. You want to row in the Ivy Leagues and you get paid to do it, I support it. Go for it. But anything short of a top 20 or top 50 school, forget it. Go to community college, figure out what you want to do, get an associate's, and then if you want to continue on, transfer into a four-year institution of your choice at that point. Much easier to get in as a junior, by the way, and your degree will still say whatever university it was. You don't even have to tell people that you went to community college. That's one avenue. And then for my son, it's like, look, man, be a hustler. My dream from him is never to work for anybody ever in his whole life, not ever. He's 14. He's already had 5-6 hustles, and he's still working on more. Still working every day. He's got a new idea, and through those hustles, man, we have taught him how to use Excel. We've taught him about cash flow. Taught him the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. What is an asset? What is debt? Man, we even got, it's so funny. If you dig in and you ask the kids questions, you can learn a lot. So he was selling candy at school, and he's like, guys would come to me and ask me if they would ask him if they could take the candy and go sell it and share with them the profits. I'm like, oh, they want you to front candy, front them some candy. Like, yeah, dude, you can do that. That's how you establish a sales force. That's one option. Or he would talk about kids coming to him and saying, can I just get candy today? I'll pay you tomorrow. And he said that he did that. It's usually $2. He's like, all right, but you got to pay me $3 tomorrow. And the guy's like, okay, cool. So then we had a conversation about vendor credit. It's like, it's just incredible. If you ask enough questions, you can find ways to teach them the lessons. But the kids in high school right now, dude, I feel so bad for them. First of all, COVID ruining everything for them. Is there anybody who lost out besides the people who died? God, sorry, RIP. But is there anybody who missed out more on anything than seniors who graduated in the year, or graduating this year, 2021? They missed out on so much unnecessarily. I feel terrible for them. They can't even get into college next year. You know why? Because all those kids who were supposed to start college at the beginning of this academic year, they deferred. Now there's no spots. And people who can't get into college is that their whole family went to like University of Wisconsin or whatever. And now they can't even get into University of Wisconsin because everyone deferred from last year and they're maxed out for 21-22. So I feel terrible for those kids. But the kids right now, they have a choice. It's the starkest choice that there's ever been, because college has never been as more expensive. The consequences of student loans have never been more dire. And the opportunity to self-teach and to be independent has never been greater. And this is sort of like this transition point right now where the kids that decide to buck the system are going to be an experiment, sort of, but sort of an experiment. And I mean, to me, it's time tested and proven, but it's still going to be an experiment to buck the system. And that takes courage. It takes courage. So this is what I have to instill in them, is courage to try something different.
Yeah. I teach my kids not to buck the system.
To hack the system.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes trying to buck the system can get you in trouble. You just have to understand the system and don't become a victim of the system. And then find the loopholes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Because I was the type of guy who bucked against the system, and I don't want my kids going
No,
through that.
I don't believe that for a second, dude.
Oh man, I was bucking the system all through school.
Yeah, dude, I don't even think I graduated high school. I'm 99.99% sure that they were just like, get out of here, dude. Just get out of here. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
same here. I don't know. I still to this day, like I remember we were in an assembly to going over like something before graduation, and I went to my English teacher came to me, or I went to her, I forget what it was. We were discussing my final grade, and I needed that grade to pass to graduate. And she said, I think you're failing or something like that. And I'm like, I threatened her with the whole mom thing. I was like, if you fail me, I'm going to have my mom come up here and she's going to give you a piece of her mind. I sure as hell graduated.
Indeed. Indeed, dude. I don't know how I did it. I showed up to graduation not knowing if I was going to be able to walk or not. They told me that morning. And I
Yeah.
don't even know how I got into college either. I think my guidance counselor pulled something off. I applied to one place. That was it. George
Wow.
Mason. But I didn't even go. I dropped out. I dropped out and I DJ'd for years. It was awesome. But so, because I do, look, I got like a D average in high school. I had like a D average in college the first few semesters. I'm like, screw this. I just want to DJ. I just want to
Yeah.
promote. I want to throw parties. I want to travel. I want to do all that lifestyle. And when I finally had run its course in me, I had achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I was like, okay, I'm ready for school. And then I went back to school, Dean's List, straight A's, honor all the way through, never missed a beat, nothing. It was the easiest thing in the world. And I want to wrap up our conversation about ease. If you have to find motivation to do something, if you need your ass kicked to do something, if it's a struggle to do something, then ask yourself, maybe this is not the right thing. When I find myself in alignment with my values,
Mm-hmm.
my mission, my purpose, and my day to day actions are in alignment with all of that, dude, I am weightless. I am flying through space. There is no resistance. I am propelled and attracted all at the same time. I don't have to do anything. Motivate? What? No, the only obstacle at that point when I'm in alignment is to make time for the other things in my life that need my attention, because this thing just sucks me down the track, the frictionless surface of physics, man. Do you find yourself in alignment? If so, how do you get there? And how do you tell other people to find that alignment, that superpower?
Yeah, you just follow your intuition, follow your interests. You know, your interests are a product of your DNA. So your DNA is going to lead you through life. You just gotta, when you get those impulses to do something, hop up and do it. Don't procrastinate. But if you follow your interests, like I remember when I had my blog and I first started, before we had writers, it'd be 2 a.m. I'd be on my phone monitoring the feed, and like, oh, a new story dropped. I gotta run downstairs or run to the living room and blog the story. Take me like 15 minutes, and I go back in bed. And I'd wake up 4 hours later, check the feed, and like three more stories waiting. And then I'm always looking for like, where's the, if this is where I'm getting the information first, well, where are they getting information from, right? And always trying to get closer and closer to the source of the information so I can be like the first one with it. So I got to the point where I was getting like right to the source of the information. I was just hopping up and just getting at it. And that's why the blog became so successful, because I was just really passionate about it. But you're passionate about something when you want to get up and you just want to run to your computer and do it. But outside of that, it's not even motivation. It's about passion and discipline. Motivation, there's no such thing as motivation. Motivation is very fleeting. You go and you sit down at a seminar and you hear a bunch of people talk, and like in that moment you're motivated. You get home and that shit just disappears. That shit's gone. You're back to whatever you were.
Yeah.
But passion's forever, and discipline is forever. So when the passion fails you, the discipline's got to be there. The discipline's always going to be there, and discipline is defined as doing what you have to do even when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I rely on is the discipline. Get up, get at it, get it done. Think about it later. That's another thing. Like where no mind helps, right? Because the mind will tell you, oh, I don't feel like doing this or da, 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 da. It's like enter a state of no mind and you just do. You know, it's almost like a robotic trance. And you just like, I'm not listening to whatever my mind says. This is what's on my to-do list today. All right. But we just drone out and just get it done.
You reminded me of my first fight. I used to be an amateur Muay Thai fighter. And my
Okay.
first fight, all I want to do is fight, man. I want to fight. Let's fight. I want to fight. I training camp, train for years, all that. Like, all I want to do is fight. And the day of, you're like, what am I doing here? Right? And you just get nervous, you get anxious and everything. And the only thing you can do, you can't think about it. The only thing you do is just one foot in front of the other on your way into the ring. And your brain goes into no mind state on its own because it has to. I remember the crowd just vanished. Tunnel vision, like the gray came like this. All I could see was that guy across the ring. Couldn't even see the corners of the ring. Just that guy. Your brain does it to you in these moments of super high stress to block everything out, to get you totally focused. When you fight, you're not thinking. You're not like, oh, I'm going to jab and I'm going to kick. It's all just instinct from the training and the practice and the discipline. And then you enter that state and it just goes.
Yeah.
And in fact, you're better off that way. You know, because your deeper body can think and act and react and analyze so much more quickly than your conscious thought.
Yeah.
And that no mind, I'm going to use that the next time I don't want to work out, which is still sometimes. I work out all the time my whole life. I love it, but still I'm like, sometimes no mind. Just block it all out.
Yeah.
And then just put one foot in front of the other and you'll be all right, man.
Just get it done.
Let's get it done. You getting it done, dude. You getting it done. Hotep Jesus, Brian, you getting it done. Guys, follow Hotep Jesus on Twitter, at Hotep Jesus, YouTube as well. Check out his business, coinbitsapp.com, dollar cost averaging, good, safe way to get involved in crypto. We didn't even talk about crypto. We talk about that for hours. I would love to learn some more about that from you. I love what you're doing, dude. I like your energy. I love your perspective. You and I have been following each other from mutuals for years.
Yeah.
And we finally touched base. We're finally talking about it, man. Congratulations on your success. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope that your message gets out even further and wider. I relate and we are aligned, bro. And it's been good times. I can't wait to see what you got coming up next.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for being on, guys. Everybody follow Hotep. Follow me. Check out the Liminal Order. If masculinity, brotherhood, and sovereignty sound good to you, check out the Liminal Order. That's liminal-order.com, where we build and create. That is our goal. So come on down, check it out. Thanks, everybody. Come back and check the channel. There'll be clips coming out every day over the next week. And we got a great lineup coming up, so we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, everybody. Peace out. Share, like, subscribe, all that. Later.